Part 86. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 851. Chapter 851. Let's go have hot pot to celebrate. Xia Ying was so angry that her tone of voice was not very good. Liang Ye scratched the back of his head in embarrassment, but I had already promised him at that time. Furthermore, Liang Ye did not think that 1,000 yuan was very small. He sang in a bar for a month, and his salary was only about 2,000 yuan. So for Liang Ye, 1,000 yuan is not a small amount. That person discovered Liang Ye when he was singing in a bar. He said that he liked his songs very much and hoped that Liang Ye could help him write some songs. And given the price, Liang Ye agreed without thinking deeply. Considering the person's voice condition, Liang Ye was very attentive in writing songs suitable for him. When you listen to my songs, you think they cost more than 1,000 yuan. Xia Ying became serious and spoke to Liang Ye word by word. Liang Ye frowned and said nothing. Who asked you to help him write songs? Are you also a singer? Liang Ye nodded. What is your name? Wu Ren. Xia Ying immediately rolled her eyes when she heard the name. It's actually Wu Ren? This person is quite famous in the music industry. Because he is good looking, he is also very popular. He has appeared on several shows and has a lot of fans. But I didn't expect that he could be so cunning behind the scenes. Even if he wants Liang Ye to write songs for him, he should pay according to the market price. Could it be that the song Wu Ren sang was only worth 1,000 yuan? Isn't this a deliberate attempt to take advantage of the situation? Xia Ying despised this person from the bottom of her heart. Ignore him anymore. From now on, you can concentrate on your creation and don't think about other things. We will help you. Xia Ying then ordered, also, you should move your things over here as soon as possible. This is the address of your residence. Xia Ying handed another card to Liang Ye. The car is parked in the garage. You go there with the key. The one that rings is your car. If you still don't understand, ask your assistant or agent Sister Rin 1. This is their contact information. Xia Ying explained a lot, and Liang Ye nodded in response and silently took it to heart. After Liang Ye left, Xia Ying finally took a breath, then excitedly jumped up from her chair, shouting happily, "Oh my God, I actually signed a contract with the future superstar Liang Ye." Yu Lingfeng had a smile in his eyes and quietly watched Xia Ying talking to herself. Xia Ying ran to Yu Lingfeng, hugged Yu Lingfeng's neck, and said excitedly, "Yu Lingfeng, do you know how popular Liang Ye will be in the future?" "No." Yu Lingfeng nodded lightly and stretched out his hand to straighten Xia Ying's messy hair on her forehead due to excessive excitement. "It's incredible. I think I have to start preparing new songs, otherwise Liang Ye's fame will surpass that of my boss, and I will be really shameless." Xia Ying curled her lips and muttered to herself. Yu Lingfeng thought for a while, "It's true that you haven't written a song for a long time." Then, Xia Ying rolled her eyes, as if she had a good idea, and looked at Yu Lingfeng with a smile on her face. "Now let's. Would you like to write a song now?" Yu Lingfeng frowned and interrupted Xia Ying's next words. "Of course not, let's go have hot pot to celebrate." Xia Ying suddenly raised her hands and cheered. Yu Lingfeng's face stiffened. Is there any connection between the two? However, it can be seen that she is really happy. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 852. Chapter 852. Spicy and Happy. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng were walking on the brightly lit streets at night. Xia Ying held Yu Lingfeng's arm, and the two of them clung to each other, just like any ordinary couple who were intimate at night. There was a good hot pot restaurant not far away, so they chose to walk there, which was not far away. Yu Lingfeng looked at Xia Ying beside her. The light at night was softer. It seemed that Xia Ying's face was like a freshly peeled egg, tender and smooth without any flaws. You can't wear a mask when eating hot pot. Because Xia Ying didn't want Yu Lingfeng to go out and cause a sensation, Yu Lingfeng had to wear a mask at all times every time he went out. Xia Ying was startled after hearing this, and it seemed to be the same thing. Hot pot restaurants generally do not have private rooms, and they have no way to hide from other people. Then let's find a seat that's a little more remote. It seems that Xia Ying is completely determined to eat this hot pot. Oh well. Yu Lingfeng had no choice but to obey and had no other choice. Why do you want to eat hot pot all of a sudden? Yu Lingfeng seems to have never eaten hot pot outside, and he has no special yearning for hot pot, a popular delicacy. Because it seems like we haven't had hot pot together, right? Xia Ying continued, and I'm happy today. Yu Lingfeng smiled and said nothing, but looked at Xia Ying with a look that deepened her tenderness. After arriving at the hot pot restaurant, Xia Ying chose a relatively remote corner and sat down with Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying looked around. There didn't seem to be many people today, and everyone was concentrating on eating hot pot. They probably didn't notice her and Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying was thinking this, lowering her head with a slight guilt and looking at the menu in front of her. Aren't those people Mu Niankai and Hanzija? Yu Lingfeng turned around and saw two people sitting in another corner. Xia Ying was stunned for a moment and looked over with Yu Lingfeng's eyes. They were really Hanzija and Mu Niankai. Two people were eating hot pot, but the strange thing was that neither of them spoke to the other. It was like two strangers being forced to sit at the same table. Since the last incident, Xia Ying has not understood their relationship for some time. I don't know if Hanzija has confessed to Mu Niankai, or what Mu Niankai is thinking about. Xia Ying stared at them for a while, but didn't see any verbal communication between them. Only occasionally, Mu Niankai would look up at Hanzija, who was eating hot pot, and Hanzija would also look up at Mu Niankai, who was eating hot pot. But no two people would look up at the same time to see each other. The relationship between the two of them was really entangled, and Xia Ying felt tired for them just looking at it. Since Yu Lingfeng doesn't like spicy food and Xia Ying likes spicy food, Xia Ying ordered the Mandarin duck pot. When eating hot pot, Xia Ying's face turned red from the spicy food while still putting food into her bowl again and again. Yu Lingfeng saw Xia Ying sweating profusely, and silently handed her a tissue, with a reproachful tone, "If eating spicy food causes this, why do you still eat it?" "Because it's spicy and makes me happy." Xia Ying answered Yu Lingfeng with a smile. "Hey, Yu Lingfeng, do you want to give it a try?" Xia Ying didn't wait for Yu Lingfeng's answer, but she already put a piece of fat beef into Yu Lingfeng's bowl. Yu Lingfeng looked at the dazzling red oil, then looked up at Xia Ying, who was full of expectation, and finally put it into his mouth. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 853. Chapter 853. Yu Lingfeng, you have also learned the routine. Xia Ying saw that Yu Lingfeng's originally fair and flawless face turned red the moment he put the piece of fat cow into his mouth. However, Yu Lingfeng still chewed hard for a long time before swallowing it. Is it tasty? Xia Ying opened her eyes wide, looking at Yu Lingfeng's expression full of expectation. Yu Lingfeng's face was already red from the spicy food. He really couldn't eat spicy food. The slightest touch of spiciness caused such a big reaction. Yu Lingfeng was about to answer, but he choked. Xia Ying quickly handed him water. It was very scary to choke on spicy food. Yu Lingfeng coughed and his ears turned red. Xia Ying began to regret that she had let him eat spicy food. Yu Lingfeng took the water and drank it in one gulp, and then he felt relieved a little. I'm sorry, Yu Lingfeng, I just wanted you to try it. I didn't expect you to be so intolerant of spicy food. It's okay. Although Yu Lingfeng felt that his throat was on fire, his eyes when looking at Xia Ying were still full of warmth. It's actually quite delicious, but I'm just not used to it. Yu Lingfeng explained. So, what do people on your planet generally eat? Xia Ying became inexplicably curious about this question. Yu Lingfeng doesn't eat sweet, sour, or spicy food. Instead, she likes bitter food. Everything seems to be contrary to the taste buds of Earthlings. So do people on their planet have different tastes? Most of the things we eat are not for taste, but for health. Yu Lingfeng spoke in a somewhat official tone. Then you don't have such a thing as gourmet food. Everyone likes different things. Yu Lingfeng said slowly, besides, everyone makes their own food and rarely eats food made by others. This is quite strange to Xia Ying. Why? Because you are afraid that others will tamper with your food. Xia Ying took a breath of cold air. What kind of place is this where everyone is so insecure that they don't even dare to eat food made by others? It was only after I got here that I slowly adapted. Yu Lingfeng continued. So, you can also cook. Xia Ying suddenly had a great idea. Yu Lingfeng glanced at Xia Ying and immediately saw through her little thoughts. Well, I'll give it a try next time, but I'm not sure it will suit your taste. Xia Ying held her face in her hands and smiled. Haha, I'm so looking forward to it. Don't worry, I'm not a picky eater. I'll eat everything and I'll make a living. Yu Lingfeng coughed lightly, and a cunning look flashed through his glass-like eyes for a moment. Well, if you marry me from now on, I can cook it for you every day. The smile on Xia Ying's lips widened. Humph, Yu Lingfeng, you actually learned the tricks. Yu Lingfeng smiled softly and looked at Xia Ying opposite you with affection. At this time, Hanzija and Mu Niankai were at the other table. Mu Niankai released Hanzija from the blacklist some time ago. Not long after, she received a call from Hanzija, who asked her to come out and have hot pot together. However, now he was like a mute and said nothing. The two of them looked at each other in silence. Mu Niankai had already eaten, and Hanzija began to brew his emotions and was ready to speak. Hey, if you don't say anything anymore, I will go home. Mu Niankai said and stood up to leave. Really, he obviously asked her to come out, but what does it mean that he didn't say a word? End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 854. Chapter 854. Do you like me? Etc. Hanzija stopped Mu Niankai. Mu Niankai looked back at him, then sat down and rolled her eyes at him. You finally spoke. I thought you were mute. Hanzija lowered his eyes, hiding the sadness in his eyes first, then put on a nonchalant look and looked up at Mu Niankai. Actually, I just want to ask you a question. Mu Niankai frowned. What's the problem? Do you like me? The expression on Mu Niankai's face froze immediately. She never expected that Hanzija would ask this directly. There was absolutely no time for her to mentally prepare. Moreover, Hanzija stared straight at her with his seductive peach blossom eyes, and her little expression could not escape his sight at all. At this moment, Mu Niankai suddenly felt that she had become transparent. Will Hanzija notice her panic and guess her little thoughts? However, Hanzija himself was actually in turmoil at the moment. He stared at Mu Niankai, just not wanting Mu Niankai to see the avoidance of his eyes and the uneasiness and entanglement in his heart. Hanzija's parents arranged a fiancé for him, saying that they would get engaged first, marry the girl directly after graduation, and then take over their family's business. And Hanzija's football dream was naturally shattered in the face of family interests. They never asked him what kind of life he really wanted to live. They just wanted Hanzija to develop in the direction they wanted, but they never asked him if he was willing or not. His favorite thing has always been football. At first he wanted to be a sports student and learn football. He was rejected by his parents, who even said that if he delayed his studies to play football, he would never be allowed to play football again. So, in high school, Hansaja studied so hard just to keep his chance to play football. Later, when he went to college, he was forced to major in finance, for the sake of doing business in the future. After graduating from college, Hansaja officially lost the opportunity to play football. That's why he has obviously been spotted by the national team, but has yet to sign a contract. Because my family won't let me, because they forbid it. Every time Hansaja wanted to rebel and disobey their orders, they would use his poor health as an excuse to make him feel uneasy. Hansaja had disobeyed their orders when he was rebellious before, but since his mother fainted due to his anger and almost left due to a heart attack, Hansaja no longer dared to rebel. He could only listen to their words one by one, break the wings of his dreams, grind them into powder, and soothe their hearts. The same is true this time, and there is nothing he can do about this marriage. The other party comes from a good family, and marrying her will be beneficial to the development of their family. You must be sick, why do I like you? Muniankai was clearly thinking about how to say rejection domineeringly, but when she actually said it, she was so weak that she had no confidence at all. She even stuttered a little, and even looked away. She is actually such a good-for-nothing person. Hansaja guessed that this would be the answer, so he just showed a bitter smile and replied to Muniankai as calmly as possible with a sentence he had prepared countless times in his mind, "Well, excuse me, see you later." Hansaja stood up and prepared to leave as he spoke. The moment Hansaja stood up, Muniankai was suddenly struck by the sadness in his eyes, which pricked the softest corner of her heart. Hansaja. Stuck here, Mom, please hit me, good night and sweet dreams. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 855. Chapter 855. If there is no hope, there will be no disappointment. Hansaja was stunned. He took a deep breath before turning back and adjusted his expression so that he could retreat without being embarrassed. Hansaja turned his head and looked at Muniankai. That. Muniankai lowered her head in embarrassment, hiding the panic in her eyes deep in her heart so that Hansaja could not observe it. She didn't know why, but when she saw Hansaja's disappointed face when he turned around just now, she felt a sharp pain in her heart. Is there anything else? Hansaja breathed calmly and tried to suppress the turmoil in his heart. The payment has not been settled yet. Muniankai originally wanted to say, I like you too, but the sentence took several twists and turns from the tip of her heart to her mouth, and when she said it, it turned into such a laughable sentence. As soon as Muniankai said it, she felt the urge to slap herself in the face. She was still not ready to trust Hansaja. She didn't know how long Hansaja's love would last. Muniankai couldn't afford the gamble, so she wanted to get out before she got too deeply involved. Hansaja's eyes flashed with disappointment for a moment, but fortunately, he didn't have high hopes at the beginning. I've already paid. I'm sorry to have to leave you here alone. I hope I can see you again by chance. Hansaja worked hard to raise the corners of his mouth, showing his signature evil smile. But that smile was no longer the carefree and careless one he usually had. The bitterness in the smile was like tea that had been left out overnight and was completely cold. Muniankai felt uncomfortable just looking at it. But she didn't say anything out loud, but stared at Hansaja's back until he walked away and disappeared into the night. Muniankai looked at the hot pot smoke in front of her, as if she had seen her future, and as if she couldn't see anything clearly. She didn't know whether what she did was right or wrong. She didn't even give her relationship with Hansaja a chance. Probably, if there is no hope, there will be no disappointment. Muniankai sat there with her head lowered, thinking quietly about something. Xia Ying had almost eaten. Xia Ying took a sip of juice, then glanced in the direction of Muniankai casually, and found that Hansaja was gone at some point. Muniankai was left alone, lowering her head and secretly feeling sad. Xia Ying frowned gradually and stared at Mu Niankai in confusion for a long time. What happened? The two of them just had hot pot. Xia Ying originally thought that they would make some substantial progress, but in the end, there was nothing. After a dull hot pot session, the two of them separated without a trace. Yu Lingfeng, I'll go over there and wait for you, Xia Ying said to Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng nodded, and then watched Xia Ying walk towards Mu Niankai. Yu Lingfeng didn't think the hot pot was very delicious at first, but after taking a few bites, he found that it was pretty good. So I couldn't help but stretch out a few more chopsticks. Mu Niankai. Xia Ying walked to Mu Niankai's desk and sat down opposite her. Mu Niankai saw Xia Ying suddenly appearing, and looked at her with wide eyes in surprise, and her lips trembled. Xia Ying, why are you here? Xia Ying pointed in the direction of Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng and I are eating hot pot here. In fact, I noticed you and Hanzija a long time ago. I just didn't look at you for a while, and Hanzija disappeared. Then it looked like this again, so I came over to see what happened. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 856. Chapter 856 I suddenly want to be with him. Mu Niankai's eyes dodged subconsciously. She sighed slightly and briefly told Xia Ying what had just happened. Xia Ying frowned. Have you really thought about it? Really, don't you give him any chance? I don't know either, in fact, I'm very confused myself. Mu Niankai looked confused. I've told you everything that needs to be said, but from the way you look, this decision doesn't seem very wise. If you really like him, you might as well give each other a chance, because as you said, Hanzija really likes you. Xia Ying's words rang in Mu Niankai's ears, but Mu Niankai actually couldn't hear anything. She herself is in a mess now, like a messy ball of yarn, and she can't sort it out no matter how hard she tries. Mu Niankai knows that she is not a good girl. She has a bad temper and is irritable. She also likes to be jealous of others. She is competitive and difficult to get along with. It's no wonder that for so many years, no high-quality man has taken a liking to her. Those who like her are either coveting the power of their family or because she is good-looking. But Hanzija is different. Hanzija has nothing to covet from her. Maybe he really likes her as an imperfect person. Mu Niankai once again thought of Hanzija's eyes when he turned around. Such a sad and downcast look was never what Hanzija should have. Mu Niankai suddenly felt a little regretful. She regretted that she didn't tell the truth just now. She didn't hate him. In fact, she also liked him very much. Even in Mu Niankai's eyes, Hanzija is philandering and glib, which is not what she likes at all. But the way he smiled was so beautiful, and when he played basketball, he was so fascinating. Even the way he quarreled with her and teased her, she couldn't get tired of it. Memories played over and over again in Mu Niankai's mind like a slideshow. Mu Niankai looked at every frame in her mind, thinking about the associated memories, and thinking about that boy who would never be with him again. Your own life is related. Unknowingly, Mu Niankai's eye circles turned red, and a drop of hot tears fell unexpectedly on the back of Mu Niankai's hand, causing Mu Niankai's heart to tremble. Mu Niankai. Xia Ying felt a little distressed when she saw Mu Niankai like this, and softly called her name. Xia Ying, I don't want Hanzija to leave me. Mu Niankai said to Xia Ying with a strong cry, I suddenly really want to be with him, even if he really lied to me, but I also really want to be with him. Xia Ying held Mu Niankai's hand and said to her sincerely, if you like her so much, don't let him go. If you call him, he will definitely come back. Muniankai cried so hard that her vision became hazy with tears. Muniankai took out her phone and tapped Hansage's number with trembling fingers, but it showed that it was turned off. He might be in the bar. Do you want me to accompany you to find him? Xia Ying suggested. Muniankai shook her head, and stood up as if she had some firm belief in her heart. No, this time, I want to be alone. Thank you, Xia Ying, for always showing up in time when I need you. Why are you being polite to me? You should be careful as a person. Xia Ying warned. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 857. Chapter 857. Xia Ying admits her relationship. Muniankai nodded, said goodbye to Xia Ying, turned around and left in a hurry. Xia Ying breathed a sigh of relief and walked towards Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying lowered her head and glanced at the hot pot. Yu Lingfeng, have you finished eating? Yu Lingfeng was stunned for a moment, looked into Xia Ying's eyes, and nodded silently. Xia Ying looked at Yu Lingfeng's eyes like a child who was caught stealing food by her mother, and smiled heartily. Ha, you also like to eat hot pot now, right? Tasty. Yu Lingfeng rarely showed a pleasant smile. If you're full, let's go back and rest early. I'll go to the company early tomorrow morning to make arrangements for Liang Ye. Yu Lingfeng stood up and prepared to leave with Xia Ying. Just when walking through the crowd, Xia Ying faintly heard the comments of the people around her. Hey, that girl looks like Xia Ying. I feel a bit like. My attention is all on my little brother. Isn't he so good looking? I wonder what it would be like to take off the mask. Maybe it's buck teeth. After Xia Ying heard this, she subconsciously turned around and glared at the girl. The girl froze at Xia Ying's look and did not dare to say anything. After Xia Ying walked away, she said to her friend beside her, that girl is so fierce, how could she be my gentle and quiet goddess Xia Ying? What Xia Ying never expected was that early the next morning, she would be trending on Weibo. The tags are Xia Ying's mysterious man, narrow sense couple CP crush, Xia Ying's male friend and the like. Xia Ying clicked on a few photos taken secretly by the paparazzi. Fortunately, at that angle, Yu Lingfeng lowered his head, but through the hazy hot pot heat, part of Yu Lingfeng's face could still be seen. Xia Ying's fans all ran out when they saw this hot search. I said, what's the matter with me, Sakura, not writing songs recently? It turns out I'm in love? I can't see my little brother's face clearly, but he looks very good looking, right? The internet has just been connected to the village, which means I am still stuck in the scandal between Xia Ying and Jun Chenai. Is there anyone who can educate me on this mysterious little brother? The narrow couple CP fan said that his heart has been completely cold. Woo woo woo, now there is no sugar to drink at all. I don't care, I'm a fan in a narrow sense. As long as Xia Ying doesn't disclose that she has a boyfriend, I won't believe it. The next second, Xia Ying responded in a very upright Weibo post, it's my boyfriend, please say goodbye, respect each other, keep some privacy, and a new song is being prepared. The accompanying picture is a secret photo taken by Xia Ying of Yu Lingfeng's hand holding a book. As soon as Xia Ying posted this on Weibo, CP fans of the narrow-minded couple who didn't believe it at first said that the slap in the face was like a tornado, it came so fast and it hurt too much. Not long after, Xia Ying admits her love affair was the first hot search, and Xia Ying's boyfriend's hand was the second hot search. Xia Ying's Weibo post was also full of ghosts and howls. Did the narrow couple give out sweets today? Xia Ying, have you forgotten Jun Chenai by the Daming Lake? Although your hands are so beautiful that people kneel down and lick them, I still think you and Mr. Jun are a better match. Summer Sakura, no matter what decision Sakura makes, she will support it. Besides, this hand is really top-notch, licking the screen. Xia Ying is my destiny, we are also human. I looked at Xia Ying's boyfriend's hand, and then looked at mine. Well, mine is undoubtedly a pig's trotter. Goodbye hand. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 858. Chapter 858 I don't want you to become a public lover. Yu Lingfeng, who rarely reads Weibo news, learned from 11Ju that he had received hot searches. And it also set off a wave of hand-showing frenzy on Weibo. Yu Lingfeng looked at the photo. Why didn't he know when Xia Ying took this photo for him? When Xia Ying walked to the living room, Xia Ying looked at the malicious smiles of the people in the living room. She probably guessed that they had all read Weibo and knew what happened. Cousin Xia Ying, have you officially given Yu Lingfeng's identity? Chu Shenxiu said with a smile. Yu Lingfeng listened strangely and raised his eyebrows. Oh my teeth are going to be knocked out by you. Grandma covered her cheek and said with a smile. Xia Ying listened to what they said to each other and knew that the situation would not be good if they continued to waste time, so she found an excuse and quickly slipped into her room to pack her things and prepare to go to the company. However, while Xia Ying was hurriedly cleaning up, she suddenly felt a chill on her back. Xia Ying stopped what she was doing, measured her body, and looked at Yu Lingfeng standing behind her. Yu Lingfeng had an expression on her face that Xia Ying couldn't understand, but Xia Ying's instinctive reaction told her that the situation was not good. Yu Lingfeng, is something okay? Since you have made it public, do I still have to go out wearing a mask? Although Yu Lingfeng was talking about discussion, his tone was affirmative when he said it. Although Yu Lingfeng didn't want to face those vulgar people, what Yu Lingfeng didn't want even more was that after he became Xia Ying's public boyfriend, he was still hiding under the mask. In particular, Yu Lingfeng couldn't stand the comments online that said Xia Ying and Jun Chenai were a better match. Now that the whole world knows that Xia Ying has a boyfriend, Yu Lingfeng also wants the whole world to know that he is Xia Ying's boyfriend. All CP fans are talking nonsense. Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying's tone softened, and she said to him half discussing, half coquettishly, you have to have a clear understanding of your face, if you really appear in public like this. I guarantee you will be read. Moreover, there will be a lot of random comments about you on the internet. And Xia Ying paused, did not say any more, and lowered her eyes. Yu Lingfeng asked, and what? Xia Ying raised her head and met Yu Lingfeng's gaze, and I don't want you to become a public lover. The former Jun Chenai and Chu Shenxiu, and the current Jian Yins, if Yu Lingfeng appears again, then they can directly retreat to the second line, and Yu Lingfeng can be beaten alone. He is really a person who tends to take things too seriously. It seems that no matter what evil things he does, as long as he looks at you, you will forgive you unconditionally. It is said that red beauty is a disaster, but blue beauty is actually quite a disaster, and it can bring disaster to the country and the people. Yu Lingfeng looked at Xia Ying's appearance and shook her head helplessly. She actually spoke and felt aggrieved, as if this matter had already happened. I can only blame you earthlings for judging people by their appearance. Yu Lingfeng reached out, stroked Xia Ying's face twice, and said softly. Isn't your planet like this? Yu Lingfeng shook his head slightly. On our planet, power is king. The kind of fighting and killing. It doesn't count, Yu Lingfeng continued, but as long as you are powerful enough, everyone will surrender to you. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 859. Chapter 859 Didn't go home all night. Xia Ying always felt that the sad mood in Yu Lingfeng's eyes when she said this was very touching. Yes, has anything happened to you before? Xia Ying asked cautiously. What did Yu Lingfeng experience when he was on their planet? Yu Lingfeng always looked unhappy when he mentioned their planet. It's all over. Yu Lingfeng deliberately avoided the question, and then changed the subject. Let's go to the company. Xia Ying nodded, and then followed Yu Lingfeng out the door with the people in the living room looking at her with evil smiles. Mu Niankai spent the whole night in the park near Hanzija's house last night. She kept calling Hanzija, but Hanzija's phone was always turned off. Mu Niankai simply didn't sleep all night and kept sitting on a wooden chair in the park waiting for him to come back. This park was Hanzija's only way home. Mu Niankai kept staring at the cars passing by, hoping to see the face she wanted to see. Mu Niankai's family called several times to inquire, but Mu Niankai used the excuse of not coming back for her friend's birthday. Mu Niankai also moved away the bodyguards beside her, preventing them from following him all the time, and letting them follow him secretly. Because the lady didn't sleep all night and stayed in the park, they and the others could only stay awake all night. If anyone suspicious passes by, they will immediately take action, fearing that Mu Niankai will be harmed in the slightest. Mu Niankai was a little tired after not sleeping all night. She put her head on her hands and lowered her head to look at a little ant on the floor. The little ant seems to have lost its way out of the organization, and has been circling in place looking for a way home, so isolated and helpless. Mu Niankai looked at the ant, and the more she looked at it, the more uncomfortable she felt. As expected, when I am in a bad mood, everything I look at is pessimistic. Even looking at a flower next to me, I regret that its flowering period is short, rather than its beauty. Hanzija was sitting in the back seat of the car at the moment, and the driver was driving him home. Hanzija did not go home last night and had been playing football in the gymnasium in the city center. Later, when he got tired from playing, he sat drinking and crying. During this period, I met several acquaintances. Seeing Hanzija like this, they came over to comfort and ask a few words, but they were all yelled away by Hanzija. Seeing that Hanzija was so irritable, they left in despair and stopped provoking him. Hanzija didn't know what caused him to fall asleep. He only knew that when he woke up, his head hurt and he was surrounded by a circle of people. The driver called Master, then helped Hanzija and took him back. On the way, Hanzija felt a splitting headache, so he lay down in the back seat and fell asleep. However, he closed his eyes and never really fell asleep. He was just tired, physically and mentally exhausted. The driver looked at the road ahead and saw Mu Niankai on the wooden chair, so he muttered, "Huh? That girl looks like Miss Mu Niankai." During the previous contract period between Mu Niankai and Hanzija, Mu Niankai was invited to the house for dinner several times by the hospitable mother Han. After going back and forth, every servant in the Han family knew Mu Niankai. Of course, including Hanzija's driver. When Hanzija heard the three words Mu Niankai, he was like a demon. He immediately opened his eyes and sat up. "What, Mu Niankai?" Hanzija looked ahead and saw no one. Looking back, Hanzija's eyes lit up. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 860. Chapter 860. She doesn't want to regret it in the future. Park the car. Hanzija said this in a quick and impatient tone, and the driver stopped the car. Hanzija opened the car door and ran towards Mu Niankai by accident. However, after running a few steps, Hanzija suddenly regained some consciousness and stopped again. The expression on his face also changed from excitement to being polished away by an increasingly clear idea in his mind. What is he doing? It has been made clear that the two of them have nothing to do with each other, so what does he mean by this? Hanzija, can you have some self-respect? Can you not be so shameless? Hanzija stopped with heavy lead-like steps less than 200 meters away from Mu Niankai, then turned around sadly, preparing to leave. Bored. Hanzija was stunned, thinking that he was hallucinating because of his confusion. How could he hear Muniankai's voice, and how could Muniankai call him? Hanzaja took a few more steps. Bored. Hanzaja turned around sharply. Before he could see the person in front of him clearly, Muniankai had already bumped into Hanzaja's arms. Because of the buffer, Hanzaja couldn't help but take 2 steps back before he could regain his footing. Hanzaja's face was full of panic, and he had no idea what the situation was. Isn't it no longer relevant? Don't you mean you don't like him or hate him? Then why did you appear at this time, and why did you call his name with such heart-wrenching cry, and even more why did you suddenly run over and hug him? Hanzaja felt that his thoughts had become a mess, and his hands were hanging feebly in the air. I don't know whether I should hug her or push her away. You. Before Hanzaja could ask anything, Muniankai was caught off guard again, stood up on tiptoes and kissed Hanzaja. Hanzaja opened his eyes wide, and the soft touch hit his heart directly, and for a moment he had a sense of déjà vu surging in the clouds. Hanzaja was such a shameless person, but his face turned red to the root of his neck. Hanzaja stared straight at Muniankai's slightly trembling eyelashes, which were still stained with wet tears. The makeup on Muniankai's face had long since faded, and Hanzaja couldn't help but wonder what happened to her last night. She is such an image-conscious person, wearing some makeup, sitting near her home. And when he saw himself, he acted like this. Hanzaja couldn't help but wonder in his heart, Muniankai, maybe she doesn't actually hate herself that much. Muniankai doesn't know how to kiss, and Hanzaja is as stunned as a piece of wood at the moment, not reacting at all to the sudden action just now. Muniankai just pressed her lips to Hanzaja's lips, and then let go. Muniankai felt the strong smell of alcohol on Hanzaja's lips. How much alcohol did he drink last night? Moreover, his hair is disheveled and his eyes are bloodshot and a little red and swollen. He must have cried. Muniankai began to regret what she had not confessed yesterday. They are all still young. Who wouldn't fall in love with the wrong person when he was young? Even though she has been hurt in love, isn't this what youth is? Her being so timid made things difficult for both of them. She doesn't want to regret that she didn't grasp that person in the future. Who knows whether this person will be the one who will walk through life with her hand in the future. End of this chapter.